We are live once again. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Prince Magnum Channel, where hot rodding and romance do coexist. I'm your host, Prince Magnum. Welcome to the live stream that I kind of told y'all was coming for later this week. And it's going to be an origin story on the Prince Magnum Channel. We've got nearly 5 years of hard running for a DIY channel and got a lot of backstory to tell, going all the way back almost 10 years. But it's going to be an interesting story, one I think that a lot of people will appreciate. So that's kind of what the plan is. And so that is what is happening. It's good to see everybody who's going to be in here today. I'm excited. Can't wait to see what this live stream brings. Kind of a heads up, I am still exhausted as all get out. But relief is on the horizon. Relief is on the horizon. So I'm starting to see people file in. I'm getting excited about that. Always makes me feel good to see people come into the live stream. We're looking at, I'm hoping I get at least, well, I hope a decent bunch of you come in. I think you all will appreciate this live stream because Prince Magnum Channel has been around. We've done a lot. We've done a lot in the last, I would say the last 5 years. We have been a very busy YouTube channel. We've been very busy, like super busy. And even before we even had 100 supporters, I mean, we were out there in in the thick of things in the public. So this has been a big grassroots movement, and tell you all some things that I learned early on about being a content creator and doing a DIY channel and things like that. So I'm going to be teaching, talking a lot about that, some stuff that I learned early on. So kind of a heads up. And right now I'm refilling my vapor, kind of a cigar flavored vapor solution called it's called Cowboy. It tastes like cowboy cigars. So I'm going to be trying to avoid smoking throughout this stream. No promises. It's hard when it's hard when you smoke. It's hard when you smoke. I try not to smoke though on camera anymore. So let's see who's all in here. Everyone just say hi. Who's in here at the moment. It's going to be a good stream, I believe. My counter hardly works anymore, so I don't pay attention to it anymore. So that's just kind of how it is. Oh goodness. Alrighty. Also, you piece of puppy poo. I hate this old phone. It barely works. That's one of the reasons why I replaced it. And that, it did it. It's done its job. It's just all worn out and stuff. So, all right. So far, I only see one person in the live, and I'm willing to bet that is probably my own wife. Let's see. Go. Yep, so far so good. Okay. So I've already done what I've done. And so there we have it. All right, bounced in. And no, this thing sucks. As per old phone, I've had it a long time. All righty. So we have that taken care of. All right. So, we kind of chill out for the first 10 minutes, first 10 to 15 minutes. So if you're fairly new to the Prince Magnum channel and that sort of thing, we usually just kind of chill out and start waiting for people to kind of come in and start kind of getting things together. Just kind of, because I hate being in the middle of the story and then, people start making their way in and that sort of thing, or, be in the middle of something and try to explain it 50 times. So I usually wait about 10, 15 minutes before we, kind of get underway. Hey, what's going on? Oh, man. For those that do not know, Sketch Squad TV, Mr. Sketch Scars, better known to all of us as Jammin' John, is here on the live stream. Um, he's an old friend of ours. What's going on, Queen Bee? Sketch Squad TV. That is a channel that has been a dear friend to the Prince Magnum Channel. Through him, through Jammin' John of Sketch Squad TV. The Prince Magnum Channel actually started learning some things on how to network, and that was actually what broke us over that 1K marker and brought us to the point where we're at right now. So it was through Jammin' John that we were able to get out there, because the Prince Magnum Channel has been, for the longest time, a grassroots movement. We were pretty well locked within the community around us, very much so. And he got us networking, and I ended up meeting the right people. And eventually I met all of you who regularly come into the live stream. So that was through Jammin' John. And if it hadn't been for him, we'd still be pretty small time, because evidently DIY is not what it once was. And unless you got a big company backing you, DIY just does not take off. It's just one of the nasty things about it. DIY just does not take off like it used to anymore. And we're talking, I'm, to my knowledge and to his knowledge as well, we looked. Oh, there you go. I am exhausted. I'm still tired, but I'm still in good humor, ironically enough. I'm still in good humor. I'm just really, 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 really tired. Still, you know, today is day 17. Yeah, today was day 17. I got 2 more days, then I get the whole weekend off. Um, After this live stream, I've got to get online and start poking around. And once I get looking around enough, we're going to try to find a car show for the Saturday. If we don't find a car show for this Saturday, we will definitely find one for the following weekend. Because if I remember correctly, um, hang on here. Where is my, there it is. Today is, uh, what is today's date? The 24th. Yeah, today's the 24th. So I have the 4th of July off. I have the 4th of July off, and there's always car shows on the 4th of July. I already seen next week's schedule, so I'm off the 4th of July. So I'm definitely going to see about doing a car show on the 4th of July, which means I'll be off the 5th, so it'll be a perfect time to do it. So that's as it stands right now. I'm going to be off the 4th of July, and so I know the car show I really, really want to go to. So I'll have some time this next week to actually prepare. To begin preparing for that car show. I've still got the floor mats that Jammin' John gave us. He also sent me the seat cover and everything. That's in Project Spirit right now. So there's that. Right now, as it stands, we are definitely ready to do a car show, and I'm going to try to talk to Princess Faye. I want her to do the car show with. We've got the money, might as well do it. We are looking at going down to Jackson, Missouri, and if all goes well, we will be live streaming that car show. That'll really be awesome. I love live streaming car shows. I've done it. I've done it a couple times before, and live streaming car shows so much fun. So much fun. You go out, you walk around, and that's where you guys really get to see the cars that I like the most. So it'll be a lot of fun doing that. It'll be a lot of fun. So that is the plan. And Jammin' John always said, I'd want to see you live streaming car shows. He's like, because you are so at home doing car shows. So, um, probably going to be a dead stream today of all the things. It's going to be kind of a dead stream. Well, I know there's someone that's a member of the Maverick Nation that's streaming right now, and everyone's kind of over there hanging out, and they're good personalities. Versus the game is streaming right now, so I imagine when they shut down for the evening, everyone will kind of file in over here. But um, we'll give it a couple more minutes, and then I'll start telling the origin story of the Prince Magnum channel and how it all come about. Because it's actually quite a funny story. Not funny, haha, just kind of, huh, that's funny. Never really thought of it that way, sort of thing. So that's gonna, we're gonna talk about the origin story of the channel. It's gonna definitely be interesting. But for the most part, I'm just kind of playing, catch up on sleep, and so I actually have some time off coming. I've got Saturday off, I've got Sunday off, then I got to go back to work Monday. Then I'm off Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I work Saturday and Sunday. Next weekend I'm off. So they've got me back on my after Tuesday. I'm back on my regular schedule, which it's 5 days a week, 4 o'clock in the morning to 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So that is what we're looking at right now, as we stand. Kind of a heads up. Hey, what's going on? Mike G. Welcome to the live stream. See, I knew people would start kind of filing in right now. So the game plan right now is that I'm going to talk about the origin story of the channel. The Prince Magnum channel has been, like I said, originally was a grassroots movement for this area. When I really started kind of kicking the channel off. What? What did I do? I didn't do nothing. So, so right now as it stands, I'm just playing catch up. uh, I'm just playing catch up on sleep. I didn't do nothing yet. Anyhow, my chair squeaks. Um, so, all right. I think we've waited about as long as we're going to wait. Let's get this party started. Heads up, I am going to try not to. I am going to try not to be smoking during this live stream, but I'm going to do my, basically. See, yeah, I did something. My chair squeaks. Anyhow, okay. When you go back in time, the first video I did going way. Slap my hand again. Don't make me go out and have a cigarette. When you go back in time to the original Prince Magnum channel video, and the video is literally called 5 Things. They're doing good. Family's doing good. I'm wondering if my sister's going to be in here. I'm hoping my sister comes in. Sure you will. Sure you will. I'll just jump in Project Spirit and go get more. When you go back in time to the original Prince Magnum channel video, we didn't even have a name for the channel yet. And the original video that we did was 5 things I would bring to the zombie apocalypse. And how that started is I was just perusing YouTube, I wasn't, I never thought of me being a content creator. I just liked watching the videos, one of those. I was one of those guys. And I still like to peruse, YouTube and see what I might learn. Or, I never thought of it that way, so it's like that, so that was, and I'd seen I heard people talking about the zombie apocalypse, and it was brand new to me. I'd never heard of this. And this is all the way back in gosh, it was like 2012, 2013. I'd have to go back and look at when we loaded that video. And so that was the, five things I'd bring to the zombie apocalypse. And I mean, I think I was looking up survival videos and I came across that stuff. And I was like, well, this is kind of different, kind of weird. It was different. YouTube was different then, but there's still a lot of those old videos up. Thank goodness YouTube hasn't screwed those up. Uh, so I started watching them, and I got caught into this loop where one guy would basically, five things you'd bring to the zombie apocalypse. And at the end of the video, he said, now that basically it became a tradition that in those videos that with that video, they would take and name off five other creators at that time. They would name five other YouTube creators and say, you guys have been tagged. Now you have to do the same video. Well, I get to this one, and of all the things, the guy says, I'm not going to tag anybody. And it was a good video. It was a real good video. I remember that much, but I don't remember the video. But this guy said, I'm tagging everybody. He said, if you have any camera device that can upload a video to YouTube, I'm tagging you. I want to see what you would bring. And I'm sitting there like, well, that's kind of different. He basically, he said, if you're watching this video, you're tagged. He said, I don't care if it's from a cell phone or whatever. He said, it doesn't have to be great quality. And he said, he even openly admitted, he said, I don't believe in the zombie apocalypse. He said, but he said, being prepared for a natural disaster or something, or being, just being prepared for a survival situation is just common sense. And I really like this guy's thinking. That's, I said, that's pretty interesting how he tagged everybody. Princess Faye looks at me and she says, you've been tagged. I said, what do you mean? And she said, you have been tagged in this video, whether you know it or not. I said, I don't understand. She said, he's tagging everyone. If you watch that video, you've been tagged. Why don't you do one? I'm curious what you would come up with. Okay. So I sat down and did my very first video, 5 things I'd bring to the zombie apocalypse. And it was my very first video. You guys can actually go back through the history of my channel and you'll actually see that. Last I looked, it was like 400, almost 500 views. I think, don't hold me to that, but it was my very first video. And I did that video and it was funny. And at that time I was playing World of Warcraft, stuff like that. I really wasn't interested in doing a whole lot of anything. And I did something kind of goofy for my World of Warcraft guild. But that video I took down years ago. But that was the original video I did. And it was kind of neat and had a lot of fun doing it. Took me 7 takes to get it right. And then I went through some crazy stuff. We went through a lot of crazy stuff. And for the next, I would say, couple of years. And at this time, I'm 34, getting ready to turn 35. And Princess Faye and I had just gotten married. We had just gotten married. And all of a sudden, my health takes a turn for the worst. We didn't know what was wrong, but I was having heart troubles. And at one point, I even had blood clots in my left lungs. In my left lung, I had I think they said there was something like 5 different blood clots in that lung. If I remember correct, it might have been 3 to 5. I can't remember. It's been a while. Had blood clots. And I was having difficulty breathing and everything. And I actually had to go on, blood thinners for a little while. And I get over that. And then I started having problems with my heart. Couldn't even walk up a flight of stairs, just stuff like that. It was getting really scary. And it was legitimately so bad that going up a flight of stairs, I would have to crawl up the stairs. Didn't matter how many. If it was even 5 steps, it was, I couldn't hardly walk up those steps. And, I was actually getting to the point where I was afraid to fall asleep. I was very scared to fall asleep. I was afraid if I fell asleep, I wouldn't wake up. So I'd maybe cat nap for maybe, 10, 15 minutes at a time, and then I'd wake right up real quick because I was scared to fall into a deep sleep. I was afraid I wouldn't wake up. So I was legit scared at that time. And I sat down with Princess Faye and I said, I have a lot of knowledge. The kids aren't here. And I'm afraid I'm not going to make it to give that knowledge away to them. And I don't want this knowledge going away. I don't want it to die with me. Because I spent, my lifetime as it was at that time, acquiring that knowledge. And so she's like, what do you want to do? I said, I think I want to actually really start the Prince Magnum channel. I want to do it for realsies. And she said, is that how you feel? I said, yeah. And I set out and began making videos for the first time. And I kind of gave the prelude to, kind of like the introduction to the Prince Magnum channel, and had kind of set some guidelines for myself at that time. Was going to go out of my way to try to teach people what I knew at that time, which I've since then acquired a lot more knowledge than I had even back then. I was going to talk about sobriety, and I was gearing myself to try to be an educational channel of sorts. And originally, I was going to do urban survival stuff because at that time I lived in Washington, Missouri, and Washington, Missouri is the police department up there is very corrupt, still is. Many people don't feel safe in Washington, Missouri. A lot of people want to get out of Washington, Missouri. Washington is a horrible, horrible town here in Missouri. As a matter of fact, most of their police officers are so bad, they can't even find the handle on a coffee cup. I mean, great detective work there, guys. So it's kind of like that, if that's any indication. And I knew that, if anything was to ever happen, a natural disaster or something like that, that nobody would know what to do up there because their police department, and I don't know if it's still like that, but their hospital had the worst ER probably in the state of Missouri, which still isn't saying all that much. Some of our ERs aren't that great here in Missouri. And it's run by Mercy Hospital. I actually, the joke about the Mercy Hospital up in Washington is they'll take a healthy person and put them in the grave. And I actually remember telling administration that's the view that a lot of people have about that hospital. And they're like, we did not know that. I said the community at large pretty well feels that this hospital is a joke as far as its ER goes. I said, as a matter of fact, I've got some stories about you guys' ER. They're like, oh, wow. I said, yeah, what's going on? Think different. Welcome to the live, where I'm actually telling the origin stories of the channel. So that was the early days of the Prince Magnum channel. No, not Parkland. Parkland, well, I'll tell you this. Parkland Hospital, their ER is not bad. In a lot of ways, it's better than Mineral Area was. But I will tell you guys right now, when it comes to Parkland hospitals, Parkland South, well, Parkland Hospital over here in Bonne Terre is the best, has the best ER out of the two, hands down, bar none. Parkland Hospital, Bonne Terre is the better of the two. I like their hospital the most. I trust their hospital the most. They've had to take care of me a couple of times when I've done stupid stuff. And that's coming later on in the story. But, yeah, I'll tell you that right now. The one over in Farmington, I've seen better. I've seen a lot better. Yeah. So you know. So now that I've said that, I went over, no, I'm talking about Mercy Hospital up in Washington, Missouri. So I basically, after being in, living in Washington, and I started the channel because my health had really taken a turn for the worst. I was in bad shape. I was in real bad shape. Like I said, I was actually getting afraid to fall asleep. I'm like, of all the things, I just get married. I was like 5 months into the marriage, and my health is taking a turn for the worst. And I'm sitting there going, of all the things, I finally get married, and now she's going to be a widow at this rate. I honestly did not think I was going to come out of that alive. I didn't honestly think I was going to come out of that alive. Again, I was actually afraid to fall asleep. Um, I can still remember sitting there, uh, you know, just sitting at the computer, sitting at this old computer that I do all my editing on. And I didn't even have editing software for the channel back then. It was just me and a camera. That was it. Just me and a camera. That's all I had. And I would sit there and I would just look at the camera and tell what I needed to tell, or maybe I would show something or something like that. And it was, it wasn't, the channel, as you guys would know today from editing content that I do today. Um, I'll tell you right now, it wasn't what it is now. It really was not what it is now. So I went through that and started learning. It's like, I started watching other people, seeing what they were doing. The more successful channels, and I started watching what they were doing, and even did a video game video back then, making fun of the biggest YouTuber in the world. That basically he screams at a camera when he has a jump scare, and that gets views. And to me, I thought that was stupid, because, education is more important than just entertainment. You know, and I always have this, and I have to tell myself this, that everybody has different viewpoints today, but I'm always one, do to better myself? What can I do to learn and better myself and acquire more knowledge? That's always been my thing, a thirst for knowledge. I love learning. 40 years old, and I've still got that thirst for knowledge. And so it's like that. So there was no car stuff yet. That comes a little bit later. So I was initially starting off with that, and then I started kind of toying around with maybe doing stuff on stage. So there's actual videos while I'm still in Washington, Missouri, where I'm up on stage singing karaoke. Then we get through all that mess, and my health all of a sudden gets better, and I'm like, well, I started this thing. I might as well go ahead and see where it goes. Maybe it might take off, maybe it might not. Who knows? I always believed in my eyes that I was a star. I just wasn't there yet. So that's kind of how it was. I believed I was a YouTube star, just not there yet. So then um, we move down here back to see. I'm originally from this area, and I get the idea that let's go back to where things make sense to me, because things don't make sense up here in Washington. You've got a corrupt police department. The members of some of the AA groups around the area did not like talking big book stuff, and it was hard to keep to find a good solid job and things like that. So we were just really unhappy. It was always like we would get ahead, and then we'd start falling behind. And it was a constant uphill battle up there. So I'm like, let's go back to my home. So we came down here, found an apartment complex, and for the record, I actually have a nasty blemish on my record. That was one of the reasons why, after that first video, there's so much time lapse. I have a nasty blemish on my record, and was actually on probation for a crime I didn't commit. By the way, the arresting police department, Washington, Missouri. Which, again, when all that came out, and I was still living in Washington, I actually had drug dealers telling me, yeah, we know what we're doing is bad. It's against the law. We're just trying to make ends meet. But the truth of it is, this town would actually be safer if there wasn't a police department here. It would actually be safer, because the police department here cannot do police work. We know what we're doing is wrong, but they're much worse than we could ever be. We could actually and had drug dealers say we could be shooting ourselves in the street, and it would still be safer without the Washington Police Department. So if that's any indication, what we were living in at that time. And for the record, they're still getting away with whatever they're doing up there. That police department is very, very corrupt. Yes, Detective Steve Sykes, I'm still looking your direction. That was the arresting officer on my case. And one of the reasons why you don't hear the pitter patter of a lot of kids around us. That's another story for another time. So we pack up, we move down here, and we actually moved down here in a '91 Ford Tempo. Okay, and so that was, and I'm like, we moved down here, and you know, we were having some overheating issues and we got that fixed, but then, temperature spiked one day. Long story short, that car did not make it and it only had 30,000 miles on the odometer. Not 130,000, only 30,000. That engine had only been broken in. Some little old lady used to tootle around in it. When we got it, it only had 15,000. So that car was gone. We needed a new car. And Princess Faye opted for, talked to her sister, and her sister more or less bought us a '96 Mustang known as Project Beauty. And that was kind of where the channel started to kind of come into its own, and made probably a total of 7 videos with that car. 7 videos total. And we were having a hard time uploading videos at that time. And at that time, when we really started making that, doing videos on cars, because I'm like, why am I trying to do, urban survival? That's stupid. Nobody's going to watch that. Nobody's going to watch that. We've been trying that for a while now. No one's watching and this was where the first ideas, maybe I should have series, dedicate, and at that time I started toying with the idea of a romance series. I started toying with it. I hadn't done it yet. When we got Project Beauty, '96 Ford Mustang, kind of this Ford Emerald Green, I think is what they call it. You didn't get a notification? Well, I'm still glad you're here. That was the original project car for the Prince Magnum channel. Welcome, 3rd Gen 83. You're in time. You're just in time. We're actually getting into where I'm actually telling the back history on the channel. So that was kind of the beginning, was when we got that '96 Ford Mustang. And so that's kind of where it all really started kind of coming into its own. But we weren't there yet. And like I said, there was probably a total of 7 videos on it. And a lot of what I was trying to do was I would basically, make these videos, and then I would go into the Mustang forums and tell people about the videos. And that was kind of my early days of trying to network. So that was the best and I found out that the Mustang crowd, the more modern Mustang crowd, they have this idea that they basically, all of them pretty well build the same car. The only thing that might change is the color of the car. So they pretty well all build the same car. And they think it's all driven on performance, when in reality, the numbers are there, but getting those numbers onto the pavement, they don't know diddly squat. So if you are a modern Mustang owner, I will say, look around on YouTube for those guys that really know their stuff about the Mustangs. Go to, find the people at your local drag strips and stuff like that. Do not go to the Mustang forums. You'll be sad. I will tell you right now, you won't be happy with it, because if you start thinking outside of the box and doing some different stuff, immediately they're actually bashing you. They're saying horrible things, and it's just not a very good community. I will tell anybody that modern day Mustang owners think they know everything when they don't know dick. Okay, yeah, I said it. That's just the honest to goodness truth. There's no nice way to put it. And so we had actually started, doing those early videos. Like I said, there was like 7 of them on Project, on Project Beauty, and we were legit sitting at when Princess Faye had her accident with that car. We were really legit sitting at, um, I think it was about 20 supporters. So in about a 6 to 7 month time frame, we went from 10 to 20. So that's kind of, where it all began. And then when she had that accident, we were legit. I think we were sitting at 20, 25. And of all the things, we had just gotten a second place trophy on that car. We had just, no, I'm sorry, we got a third place trophy on that car. So Project Beauty legit had 2 trophies to her name and was considered different for her time because we were actually taking stock parts and redressing them as custom and showing people how to save money on that. And so a lot of people liked it, what we were doing as far as that went. And met the original owner to that car and did some backstory stuff on that car. So that car actually had a really, I had actually come into contact years before with Project Beauty. Back when I had my 77 Delta, I blew the doors off of Project Beauty. And then later on, I end up with that car because the guy who had it had had it for years. And I said, I only remember, he's like, I've had this car for years. I said, I lived down here before. I said, I remember back in the, about 2000, 2005, 2006, racing a car like this with my 77 Olds Delta. He said it was the only car I couldn't outrun. And I said, that was my car. And he's like, oh my God. So so there you go. Basically the car I beat later on, years later, I end up owning. So after the accident, I'm like, what the hell am I supposed to make videos about now? So that was a big hit. So the Prince Magnum Channel seen its first roadblock, if you will, of all the things, no pun intended. That was our first roadblock. So at that time, I started looking around for, cars. And for the record, Princess Faye used to have a problem with engine. When she was behind the wheel, it was engines blowing up or car crashes. That was her thing back then. And I basically said, I want a wife, not a corpse. And I love my wife more than anything, but that was just kind of one of the problems that she had back then. And thank goodness she outgrew that, and we can thank one car for that, and we'll get to that in a second. So we started, perusing Craigslist, and I started looking around on Facebook, and we came across, I came across a couple different vehicles and things like that. And Princess Faye was actually going to the Beauty Academy over in Farmington at that time. And of all the things, as we're kind of, perusing around and looking through the cars and everything, I come across, and at that time, I was like, I really don't like a lot of the cars I'm looking at. And I said, we can, some of the ones we can afford. I said, don't like them. They're too new for my style. I really don't want anything like that. I said, I want something older. I said, whatever. I said, let's just find a 70s car. I said, those things are this is how removed I was, evidently. I'm like 36 at this time. And I guess I was so removed at that time. I turned around and said, why don't we find an old 70s car? These cars are everywhere. I said, just look around. I said, and put that back on the road. One that's in decent running condition. And all you got to do is just put it back on the road, fix a few things, and it'll pass inspection. And I guess I was so far removed in my head, we started looking, but I didn't see any cars from the 70s for the most part. And I'm like, wait a minute, where did all these cars go? And it dawned on me for the first time in my life that enough time had passed finding cars from the 70s to put back on the road, or cars from the 80s to just put back on the road, is not as easy as it sounds. And that was the first time reality smacked me right in the face, just like that. I mean, it was the first time that I realized that the hot rod community had changed. The first real time that it hit me in the face, and I realized that the world was changing and I hadn't caught up yet, and especially in the hot rod community. And at this time, I started hearing terms that I'd never heard before. I heard, what we used to call posers in the hot rod community. What we used to call posers, we were now calling them ricers. I'm like, what is that? I mean, a ricer to me sounds like someone who enjoys rice. And they're like, exactly. I said, no, not the same thing. Which that's another story for, what's coming up. So that's, so I started hearing terms that, and for the first time I was hearing people call custom wheels on a car rims. I'm like, the beauty rings? I thought they stopped using beauty rings. Oh, the actual wheel itself. First time I started hearing this stuff, I had no idea. So I was learning terms that I'd never heard before. It was a wake-up call that times had changed. The old, what I was doing. And, so I was hearing stuff for the first time I never heard before. And so this was kind of new to me. Well, as we were perusing, it was about a week we were looking, and we come across a 1975 Ford Maverick. Rust was minimal, and all I was seeing was pictures. The inline six was there, and I looked at Princess Faye, and I said, this is perfect. I said, I always wanted to work on a Ford inline six. I said, they're good, strong engines. I always wanted to work on one. So we gave the guy a call, and he initially wanted 1,200. Thank you. Third Gen 83 and Think Different. You guys know. So we found this car, and for the first time, I seen something. I was 3 on the tree, and he put it in. The guy put it in there. I wished I'd still had all those old emails. And he said, 3 on the tree. I'm like, oh hell yeah, it's a stick shift. It's exactly what I'm looking for. I always wanted a stick shift car, and I always wanted to say I had a car that had a 3 on the tree. I mean, everything that I thought was like quintessential hot rodding, like working on an inline six, the 3 on the tree, bench seats, the old stuff that a lot of people take for granted. I mean, it was all there, perfect. And it was a time capsule of the 70s. I'm like, I was a kid in a candy store again, because it was all the stuff that I thought and I still think is really cool. Okay. I mean, it's that old stuff that I love. Gave the guy a call. He initially wanted 1,200. You never had a bench seat? Oh man, it's like when you sit down, think different. You're in my neck of the woods, and sometime you're gonna have to meet up with me, and I have to bring you over to HQ or something like that. You're gonna have to you're gonna have to hook up with me someday, and I'll bring you over to HQ so you can see some of the cool stuff that nobody else gets to see. But I'll bring you over and we'll do a complete walk around of the car just for you, man. I mean, you'll she's still a time capsule of the 70s, no question about it. But if you ever ride on one of those bench seats, it's just literally like sitting on your couch. It's very comfortable, very comfortable. And we might actually be able to do that this week. But anyhow, so that was, that was Project Spirit. Talked to the guy, and Princess Faye actually talked him down to $1,000, because we still needed a little bit of money to put her back on the road. We had a friend take us down there because we didn't, we had a car. We actually had 2 cars, technically. Project Beauty was no more, after the accident. And then we had that we still had that 91 Tempo, and that car actually had a name. We called it Dinky because it was legit the smallest car I'd ever owned. I used to, well, yeah, I mean, some people, I've actually sat down in a 57 Chevy Nomads bench seat, and they're extremely comfortable. But that was all the way back when I was 16, and that was even more comfortable. Now, myself personally, when it comes to bench seats, right behind the ones from the 50s, the bench seats in the Olds Deltas are extremely comfortable. Extremely comfortable. What's going on, Harold? It's good to see you, buddy. Good to see you, my man. So that, I mean, that was, so I immediately, when, I had, just by pictures alone, I wanted Project Spirit. And when we got there, I'm like, oh, this car is so coming home with us. And I insisted. So, we had a little bit of trouble, but it took us a couple of days, but we legit drove Project Spirit home. She had an issue with charging, and she had this real funny thing. Basically, she kept killing. She would run, but she kept killing her battery. So she had a short somewhere. No, and it was actually legit from one of the. I think if I remember correctly, it was one of the wires that led down to the voltage regulators. What it was. So once we actually got that fixed, that issue was taken care of. And then she always acted like she always acted like she was like there was a vacuum leak and looked all over, couldn't figure it out. And I went out to AutoZone over in Deloge and picked up like a bunch of vacuum caps because the previous owner um, was like taking vacuum lines and he would cut them and then he would shove twigs in it, or he wouldn't even go that far. So I capped all that stuff off right, and had legit vacuum caps on it, and it's still. Yeah, I know you're over in Farmington. I know you're over in Farmington. Um, so we legit had problems where we were actually having problems um, getting like we couldn't find that one vacuum leak. We got and I'm like, where's this vacuum leak? And and I kept having the charging issue. This was also the time that we had the problem. We just got Project Spirit home, had started filming, and the next day, I'm getting ready to go over to the license office and start getting things looked at on Project Spirit. And she didn't at this time. It was just the Maverick Project. We didn't even have a name yet. And the police department started kind of hassling us over a derelict car. I'm like, we just brought the car home like 2 days ago. What do you want me to do? Okay. So they actually towed Project Spirit as a derelict car, and it was someone on the city board. And and I'm like, and I got into it with the police department and everything. And there's actually a video where I went off on the police department because it gave me a ticket for a derelict car, and it wasn't, and all this other stuff. And I legit came down on the police department, and I was standing there talking to the police chief, Doug Calvert. And for the record, today, Doug Calvert, the police chief of Bonne Terre, and I are actually good friends. Anytime, and we'll get into that a little bit later, how I've actually helped with police investigations in the area. Um, oh, you've seen that? Yeah, that's an old. Oh my gosh, that's an old video. That is an old video. And yeah, yeah, that was straight up. And I actually looked right at the police chief and his second in command, and we were, when this was, yeah, we went over, paid, and came back, brought the car back, and then started doing all the stuff to get it inspected and everything. And in the middle of that, I did that video and legit came down both feet on the police department and went online and looked at the actual ordinance of the area. And when I looked at the actual ordinance, they said, that's not what the ordinance said. I said, yes, it is. I said, I looked it up online. And they're like, what? And I brought it up on Princess Faye's phone, and I held it up, and they read it. They're like, where did you get this? I said, it's on you guys. It's on the city's website. He's like, I didn't know we had a website. I said, you do. I said, now, I said, because this is going to be going to court soon. I said, if anybody touches that website, it's tampering with evidence. Tampering with evidence. I said, you guys are in a lot of trouble right now. And they're like, well, why didn't you come to the police station? We could have printed out what the ordinance is now. I said, you guys could have handed me anything. I said, so if you guys touched it, they're like, who the hell are you? Who the hell are you? And I said, I'm Prince Magnum. And I told them legit who I was and everything. They're like, we have never met anyone like you. So at that time, and at the end of it all, they're like, we really did not know what we were dealing with. But if we'd have known, we'd have told the city board, no, you don't want to mess with this guy. And then it all started coming out where the police department ratted out the city board. And then in the midst of all of this, we Project Spirit ends up on the road and started making videos and started uploading those videos pretty quickly. So if you go back to those early videos, I mean, their Project Spirit didn't even have her name. And when I started announcing to people around the area that I have a YouTube channel and we're going to start talking about that Maverick they're seeing me with, that's when it really started turning on. It took us a month to put her on the road. And in the meantime, I had to bum rides to work. It was a tough time, but it was worth it. And I kept telling everybody, it's a worth it project. And there is a running gag on Project Spirit. If you go back to one of the original walk-arounds, I was talking about a bolt that sat up on that arm. Shops in the area kept saying that her front suspension was shot. And that bolt sat up there from when we got her. And I knew where it went, but I never put it back. I always left that one bolt there. Eventually, one shop did put it back, but I put a different bolt up there to keep the gag going. And I'll have to point that out sometime. But shops in the area kept saying, oh, front suspension shot, it's going to cost you thousands of dollars to get it to pass inspection. And I'm like, your ass. Bullshit. And so I actually legit know shops that you do not want to take your vehicle to because of that. And in the end, we proved that it didn't take $1,000. It took legit maybe 2-3 parts, and that was it. She was on the road. And she passed inspection with flying colors. And we figured out where that vacuum leak was. And you guys have heard me joke about this, but it was legit a gasket that goes between the base of the carburetor, because it's like there's the carburetor, then there's like a spacer that goes between that carburetor and the intake manifold. Well, on the bottom side of that intake manifold, the intake manifold and that spacer on there was a gasket there that was missing. And you can't buy this gasket. I have looked and I can't find it. I still can't find it. I've been looking for almost 5 years and I've never found that gasket. It doesn't exist. You go to buy the carburetor gasket and they always give the one that's the next one up. And I've got a couple of those, but legit, you cannot get the one that's underneath. Evidently, Ford swapped those out willy-nilly. And there was like even a heater line that ran from up on the engine, ran through it to kind of help with the choke and everything. It was weird. I only seen 2 cars like that in my time that had that on the inline sixes, and one of them was a 60s Ford Falcon. But in the process of doing all this, we got the turbo muffler that's on there now, and just stuff like that. It took me, bought the car for $1,000. It legit only took about $200 to put her on the road. That was it. And that includes the inspection and everything else. So Project Spirit is now on the road. And I started driving her. And it was a lot of fun. I started bringing her to work and everything. And everyone's like, man, that is a cool car. Can't wait to see you start fixing it up. And at that time, those old chrome wheels that are still on her were on her then. And I was looking at them like, man, I don't know if I could get that clean. Got some steel wool and everything, cleaned them up. And I mean, immediately, she started to shine. And I'm like, yeah, Azalea Festival's coming up. And, I knew it was coming up. And the first time I went to the Azalea Festival for the car show was when we had Project Beauty. So there's actually an old video on that. And it wasn't that great. I mean, it was a crap video. And this is about the time that there was 3 series on the Prince Magnum channel. And 3 series. The first series was do-it-yourself budget hot rodding. And I knew that if anything happened to the car, still needed content. So I came up with the idea that I was going to do uh, the romance side, surviving romance. So I thought, that's a great idea. And so for the very first time, I was bringing cars and romance together. So it was brand new. No one else was doing it. I thought it was a great idea. And I will tell you all that I got the idea from Stacy David's Gears. He was reviewing a 1970 Plymouth Superbird, and he was talking about the bench seat in it. And what he did was in the middle of filming, the cameraman sitting next to him, he does this swerve thing, and legit the cameraman falls over, kind of slides towards him, and he did it so perfectly. And he said, he's like, this car's got the bench seat in it, and he said, what I love about the bench seat is this. He said, you're out on a date with your girlfriend. You're on a date, and your date's next to you, and he swerves in. Oh, look out for that rabbit! And the cameraman legit falls, kind of falls and slides over his direction. He said, you can put your arm around your date. He's like, that's a great design. I love that design. And I'm sitting there, and this is where it all started. I started toying with that idea, and then, so when Project Spirit came into being on the channel, that's where I got the idea. So Stacy David was close, but he never actually did it. I'm the first. So that was bringing the two together like that. So that's where it kind of all began. And I'd been toying around with the idea, and then I already kind of started doing it. The series known as In Your Face. So initially, In Your Face, I went ahead and turned, basically actually named that series, but it was always there. So I finally gave a name to the series, In Your Face. And initially, it was designed because the millennial age group gets a bad rap. They get such a bad rap. The millennial age group is kind of considered the laughing stock of this country. And believe it or not, my kids' generation, the Generation Z, now called Zoomers, actually laugh at millennials. On top of that, every generation before the millennials laughs at them. And that's not really fair. They just got dealt a dirty hand. They really did. They really got dealt a dirty hand. And it's one particular genre, and it's only a handful of them really, of a particular age group that screwed them. Okay, that particular group tried to screw my, the Generation Xers, like myself, but we were too smart because we listened to our Vietnam veterans. So we were smarter than them. So that's what happened there. And so initially, that's what that was for. But I was dealing with a bunch of stuff over my kids in the state of Missouri. Was being hassled at the same time with the city, and it was all starting to come out, and I'm like, I had to legit shift gears in this case, and In Your Face became more alternate media. I didn't want to do alternate media. That was not my intent. For the record, I was actually hassled up in Washington, Missouri, because they really came down both feet on me, because, if you will, I watched I watched and listened to the Alex Jones show. That was the real problem, because I wasn't a sheeple, okay, as we like to say. I'm not a sheeple. I don't listen to what's in the mainstream media. So that was one of the reasons why I was a target up there, and I spoke out against the stuff that the police departments did up there. So then, I come down here, now I'm dealing with the same crap. So I'm like, that's it. In Your Face is now shifting gears, and I went after the city. I did one video. And side note, and Third Gen 83 actually knows who I'm talking about. We don't mention this guy's name anymore, because I don't want anyone to go to his channel ever. Last I looked, he's sitting at 72, and that is too many for this guy. He is not a good person. But I legit started working with this guy, um, and because he evidently had problems with the city. No, he was actually the real problem, which we figured out later on. Um, so the race was on. Him and I, always tried to goad each other on to do better and everything. My videos started getting better and things like that. We started live, we did a couple of live streams and things like that. It was good stuff in those early days. It was really good stuff. And he actually came across a couple of videos where I was speaking out against the police department. And then, of course, it started coming into, focus. At that time, I think we were sitting at like 70. And also during this time, real quick, Project Spirit's second car show ever after the Azalea Festival. We went to the Azalea Festival, showed her off for the first time. Her second car show that she ever did was legit called Cruising for the Blind. And when I got approached to do this, it was up there at the Azalea Festival back in 2016. So I'm 36 at this time. I think. Yeah, it was 36 at this time. Got asked to do the Cruising for the Blind. I'm like, Cruising for the Blind? That sounds really awesome. And I basically ended up talking to someone for the first time, and they said, well, all the proceeds go to find a cure for blindness for kids, for blind kids. And so legit, I was sitting there going, I am going to a car show to help raise money for blind kids. How cliche can you get? I actually was, I legit actually just came across some of the video footage just a little while ago from the Cruising for the Blind, and I was actually I actually went up and actually did public speaking for the first time for my channel. And of course, at this time, we're still doing the karaoke videos, and didn't even know where that was going to fit in yet. It was just stuff like that. We were doing, I was kind of all over the place, but I was trying to bring it in, at that time. We still are all over the place. We're like, a cavalryman with 8 arms, like we're an octopus on a horse. Um, you know, so that's, to give you an idea. So that first year was really kind of learning who we were here on the channel. And, started getting closer to that 100 mark. By the time we did the third car show later in the year, we were really moving, we were getting close to that 100-person marker. And a lot of times how I would get my supporters is I would legit go to car shows, or I would go to a car meet, and would or people would come into work, and I would they're like, you're the guy that owns that Maverick out there. Yeah, if you like what you're seeing, go to this YouTube channel. So legit, that was how I built my channel, was I would tell people about my channel. For the record, I still do that. I'll be talking to people. I said, you like the car? Yeah, I love the car. I said, go onto YouTube, log on, go into your search bar and put in the Prince Magnum Channel. We got some stuff you'll love. So that was, I still do that today. I still legit do that. And people, as a matter of fact, sometimes people will hand me their phone and I'll put it in the search bar for them. So I still do that. Believe it or not, I still do that. Ironically enough, that's pretty cool, I guess. And we were getting into, basically that was our first time really getting into the community. And and at this time, after that car show, we picked up Project Vera. For those that do not know, the Prince Magnum Channel used to have, at one time, it used to have 2 Mavericks. Yeah, we were legit getting into the public. And well, actually, right around the time we started doing the Cruising for the Blind, we had 2 Mavericks. We had just picked up our second Maverick, and that was Project Vera. a 1977 Ford Maverick. She doesn't exist anymore, I'm afraid. Her frame rusted out from underneath her, and her gas tank, well, it turned into a bowl. It collapsed in on itself from rust. When someone legit came into my job, and I'm working front counter, said, "You're the guy who owns the Maverick, right?" I said, "Yeah, I'm the guy who owns that old Maverick out there." And he's like, "I know there's another one for sale." I said, "How much?" $200. "Who's got it for sale?" And he said, "Well, it'd be a good parts car." He said, "But I'm selling it for a friend." I said, "A parts car?" I said, "Well, let me see this car." And I went up and looked at it, and I said, "Let me talk to my wife." I got the guy's number, went home. I said, "Honey, you know how you said a couple days ago that, you wouldn't mind having a car like Spirit?" And she said, "I would love to have another car like Spirit. $200 and I can get you one." And she's like, "You're shitting me." She's like, "Okay." So we went over, took a look at it. She called her sister and said, "Sis, could you just give me $200? Loan me $200." And her sister's like, "Why?" And she showed her a picture. She's like, "Oh, that's going to be a pretty car." And canary yellow. This car was a definite time capsule too. Um, Legit time capsule. And it had an inline 250 in it. This one actually had air conditioning, automatic. Good little car. Good little car. Good on gas too. Um, and we bought the car. Drug it home. We had to have it towed home. Couldn't find the keys for it, so we thought we were going to have to call a locksmith and everything. So it was definitely getting interesting. And the city, we were still dealing with the city at that time, but they started hassling us over that one. That's when I did that video where I went around showing all the, just right in near my apartment complex, all the problems with the roads. Why, they're hassling me over a couple of Mavericks. Why aren't the roads being fixed? They're throwing all these fines out, for all this, and the roads aren't getting fixed. Where's the money going? So I started asking those questions. And that was when the city more or less told the prosecutor, drop it, and tell them never to do another video like that again. So that was the end. Because when we loaded that video, the property values legit just started dropping across the board here in Bonne Terre, and well-to-do people started putting their houses up for sale because they're like, "Nope, that done it. Um, and that stopped it. They were like, "Just get him out of that courtroom. Don't, just drop it." So they dropped it, and never had another problem out of the city again. Never had another problem. They're good. And if anything, I ended up making friends with the police chief after that and everything. And he knows, matter of fact, if I ever have to call the police department and say that we've got problems in the area, or there's, any problems, where people are having their cars broke into, the police will actually monitor our area a lot more because they're watching out for Project Spirit. That is not a joke. Straight up honest, they watch out for Project Spirit. And every once in a while, I'll show up over at the police station to do something nice for them. Like I actually took the police chief, Doug Calvert, actually for a while had a 70 Monte Carlo that he'd been working on for a while, and I took him in an air cleaner that Princess Faye had. It was given to me, and we cleaned it up real nice, and Princess Faye did some artwork to it and took it over there for him, and he put that on his car. He loved it. He ended up having to sell it because his daughter needed some serious dental work, and he sold his car to pay for his daughter's dental work. So, I mean, so he's a family man. He's a good man. And despite what that other YouTuber says, you know, we don't talk about him. And Third Gen actually knows exactly who I'm talking about. And he always said, "Hey man, you need to get away from that dude. He's nothing but bad news. He's bad news Brown right there, man." And I'm like, well, he helped me out through some bad stuff, but then he kept getting me into trouble. I'm gonna go do something bad. I'm gonna go have a cigarette. So that's where that all kind of started going in. Real quick, while I'm right over here, um, these two trophies right here, this one right here, and this one right here are actually Project Beauty's trophies. Um, so so that's where that all kind of began. And in that time frame, um, you know, so that was kind of year one, going around to different car shows and things like, yes, I am. I'm having one, you know. So that was kind of how it all started. That was I really consider the moment we got Project Spirit the kind of the where it all began. So that's why you hear me say a lot of times when get back in that, don't tell me what to do. But so the first time that Princess Faye, the first time Princess Faye actually, she showed her, Project Vera. I know it's not good for me, but come on, it's one last nasty habit I got left. And it's helping me remember. Okay, I'm using it to help me remember. Um, so at that point, we went to we the next car show that we did after Cruising for the Blind was we went down to my old hometown in Pilot Knob. We actually got approached after doing a car meet. Princess Faye and I did this car meet where we showed both Mavericks. And back then, all the gals leaned towards Project Spirit. Project Spirit was the car that everyone leaned towards. They all loved Project Spirit, but believe it or not, the guys actually loved Project Vera more. Because it was a woman's car. It was a woman's car, and all the gals liked Project Spirit out of the two Mavericks because Project Spirit, was blue. But all the guys liked Project Vera because it was a woman's project. And legit, we would work on them together. So we went to this car. What's going on, Chairman? Um, so we would go down to Pilot Knob. We went down to Pilot Knob. We actually got approached by some old friends of mine from Pilot Knob. Um, we went down to Pilot Knob for this car show because they asked us. We were getting new tires on Vera, and I followed Princess Faye over, so we're getting new tires on Vera, and they're like, "Wow, when's the last time you seen two Mavericks? One Maverick, let alone two." And the couple was like, "I wonder if they know each other." Well, no, the two of us, it was a his and hers project. Oh man, I'm sorry to hear that, brother. You get to feeling better, okay? You should be falling apart on me. So we went, we got approached because we went to this car meet later that evening, and all the older guys were like, "This is a woman's project. A woman's working on this car." Yes, yes, it's a woman working on this. Shoot, at that point, all the guys loved that car more than Project Spirit. So that Project Vera actually was starting to develop her own following. Um, so from there, we went to a car show. Well, good. That's probably a good idea not to do that. We went to our very first car show where we showed two cars for the very first time. So, for those that were ever wondering, Project Lena has been to a car show with Project Spirit, but that was not the first time we showed two cars together from the channel. First time we ever did that was with Project Spirit and Project Vera. And I always tease, for the record, with Project Vera being a 77 Maverick, I always teased Princess Faye and said 77 was the last year for the Ford Mavericks, for the Ford Maverick, which I did not know that they continued to make them long after that for a long time in South America and in Mexico. But for the United States, I knew that. I said, I said 77 was the last year for the Maverick, and you have a 77 Maverick. It just goes to show your typical female thing, you got to have the last word. So that was actually a joke. And so, and along with this, I was also starting to do videos on surviving romance. So, and I was doing the in your face videos. So now the three series are established, or try BioFreeze. BioFreeze. It's a menthol like gel, does does wonders. I've used it before and it's good stuff. Try BioFreeze as well. That's another good one. Um, so now, legit. we have the 3 series established, the 3 original series for the channel. And I got the idea in the midst of this to do Sober Talk. And I started doing videos on Sober Talk. A lot of people didn't really pay attention to Sober Talk back then. And I wasn't even quite fully 10 years sober yet. Back then, I didn't even, if I was on camera, I wore sunglasses. Because, you know, if you will, back then, there was this whole thought process. Ah, that sucks, man. I know the type you're talking about. Yeah, back then, yeah. So, so now by this time, as the year's closing out, year 1 is closing out. We finally had our 4 series, but the 3 original series was do it yourself budget hot rodding, which eventually morphed into 2 sides of the same coin. So if you're ever wondering about that, 2 sides of the same coin, do it yourself budget hot rodding morphed into 2 sides of the same coin. Yeah, it was getting exciting at that time. Which, for the record, at that time, Soberman was not sponsoring me. That was another story for another time. But going back, my God, looking back at that first at the true year 1 for the Prince Magnum channel was definitely interesting. Looking back at that, because, like I said, that first year, we finally got the Windows Movie Maker, and I wasn't even that good at it. I had a lot to learn about it. So I was still learning the program, didn't have any intro music, and I got the idea later on to add old video game music because, for the record, a lot of the old 8-bit and 16-bit era video game music that you'll hear on the channel every now and again or sometimes some of the old video game music that you guys will hear from way back when, I will tell you all, if you will, you'll appreciate this. A lot of those games are actually games that I played with an uncle who I was very close to, who is not with us. He actually passed away when I was 31, and he's long gone. He's gone. He passed away before I had my stroke. Died of pneumonia, of all the things. So when you hear that old 8-bit music and sometimes a 16-bit, and some of those old video game, some of that old video game music, you're actually hearing music, old video game music that's special to me because of the fact that it was an uncle that passed away that I was very close to and got me through a lot of abuse that I was going through during my teen years. So if you ever, I know some people are like, man, that's not, it's kind of a, no, it's important because if it wasn't for that uncle, I wouldn't be here because I was going through a lot of crazy stuff as a teenager, which eventually would turn into where I was denied military service because I was diagnosed with PTSD at the age of 16. So if you ever wondered about that, yeah, my uncle actually. So if you ever hear 8-bit music from way back when, that was video game music that, the old video game music that video games that my uncle and I used to play together way back when, who's not with us anymore, or video games I used to play with a brother, some of my brothers and things like that, So we're talking, this is actual important history to me, so if you ever wondered about that. So, yeah, so there's that. We started kind of playing with that towards the end of the year, year 1. By year 2, Project Spirit we started having our first serious problems with Project Spirit. She actually went down. Well, she started having problems, around that winter time. We started having problems with her original transmission. And by this time, Project Spirit's like 42 years old. Her first gear was starting to go out. The synchronizer was going. And the clutch was wearing out. Just all sorts of stuff. Little bitty things started breaking for the first time. And so that was some of the things we started running into. Um, so I didn't get to do car shows for 2017, but I was still doing videos. And at this time, because of that blemish on my record, I had to do some community service, and as part of my probation, not parole, probation. I never actually went to prison for that crime I didn't commit. Um, and in the process of doing that, I ended up meeting some wonderful people up at the Bonne Terre Public Library. But at this time, I was already involved in the community with the Prince Magnum Channel. Again, we'd already done the Cruising for the Blind. We actually had done, when we did that car show in Pilot Knob, that particular car show was all the proceeds went to help the city streets in Pilot Knob. Very progressive mayor at that time. The next car show we did was an Oktoberfest a little bit later that year. And we also did, and that Oktoberfest, I'll never do another one for that church again. It was a church fundraiser, and we did this car show, and they were legit straight up hateful to the Prince Magnum Channel. Very hateful. I will never, and it was over in Farmington. I think you all know which one. And all the proceeds went to help their private school. And so they were legit very hateful to the Prince Magnum Channel. We were real small time then, but at that time we were just monetized, and we weren't quite at 100 supporters yet. But we have the monetization turned on, and we got our custom URL. So if you guys ever wondered, yeah, they were straight up hateful. They actually, when we got there, they were very snide towards us. They were rude, because we had already been telling people in the public that we were going to be there. It was all over Facebook and everything that we were going to be at this car show. And, we were trying to do our part to help the proceeds to further education and things like that. And I said I would never, ever, ever do another car show for those people. And the irony of it is a neo-pagan doing a charity car show to help raise money for a Christian church. So that should tell you how very forgiving I am and everything. It didn't matter to me. It was for the kids, but they were just absolutely rude. I mean, just kind of across the board rude. And I actually left that car show very upset, very upset. Basically, yeah, they legit basically treated me like the best way I could describe it is they legit treated me like I was garbage. Everybody else that showed up, and Project Spirit has always been showed as a work in progress. So you could legit go through the videos and watch the progress over the years. And they treated Project Spirit like she was just a junk car back then. And I mean, I guess in a lot of ways she was back then, but to me, she's always been a diamond in the rough, and they treated me like, oh, you're on YouTube, you're nothing but trash anyways. That's legit how they treated me. So I've never so that was the first and only car show I ever did for St. Paul's Lutheran up in Farmington, and said I would never do another one again. And I have stuck to my words on that. But I was there trying to help raise money for them. And we did another car show after that. We did it over at um, at West County High School. All the proceeds went to help their band class, their band and choir, if I remember correctly. And that was Project Spirit's third trophy. And she was actually given her very first place trophy when the kids at that high school found out that Project Spirit was on YouTube. And we wanted to take Project Vera, but she was actually having problems at that time. She was having some difficulty. Project Vera was not on the channel for super long. She went, that was our last car show for 2016. And Project Spirit was given a first place trophy. And the kids, when I showed that Project Spirit was on YouTube, when they looked and they're like, this car is on YouTube, the kids actually said, if that car does not leave with a first place trophy, we will riot. The kids threatened to riot if Project Spirit did not get first place in her class. And they legit started moving cars around because the kids said that if she doesn't leave with a first place trophy, we will legit riot. So that was how Project Spirit got her very first place trophy. That was how she got that trophy that day. The kids found out she was on YouTube and fell in love with her immediately. So that was Project Spirit's very first place trophy. And again, at this time we're doing all the romance stuff, but the romance stuff was kind of in the background at this time. So it was just kind of background stuff. Winter comes along, and I tease my boss about this. My boss Jen at work. I tease her about it. At this time, we're coming up on I'm getting ready to be moved into the maintenance department at this time. And along with that, they gave us permission around the holiday time that we could bring cameras in and stuff like that. I'm like, we could bring cameras in? Yeah, bring in cameras, do some selfies and stuff. So I brought in my actual YouTube cameras, and I asked, can I do a YouTube video on us? They're like, yeah, man, that'll be awesome. And so I did my very first video for McDonald's, and did that video, and it was so much fun. We had so much fun doing it. And did that video. We had a blast. And around that time, we also did and I talked about doing the video where, so literally it was showing love for Farm One McDonald's, and in your face, showing love for Farm One McDonald's, still one of my favorite videos I did. Quite possibly one of my all-time favorites for the channel. And did that video, and we had so much fun doing it. Had a blast, and had a great time. My God, that was so much fun. And did that video, and my store manager Jen, her and I sat down, and when we did that video for the first time, and of all the things, when we did that video, oh yeah, it's a lot of fun. When we did that video, Jen, yeah, I know you don't live super far from the Farm One store. And around this time, we're talking about shutting down the old store, and we're all going to be transferred around, and that sort of thing. Well, in the process of this, Jen and I sit down, and I walk her through the video, and I was actually talking about my stroke, how it all came about. Yeah. And this was also the first time, because I went over to, because, the people from Sonic would come over to the store, and they would go through drive-through. Really good people from the Farmington Sonic restaurant. I haven't gone up there in a long time, but they would come over and we'd all joke in the drive-through window and everything. Just good people. And I went over there, and their customer service was second to none. And I got the idea, why don't I call their corporate people and put them over? That was what I thought. I'll call and their corporate person blew me off, and I was pissed. So I did my very first restaurant video in your face, showing love for Farmington Sonic, and did that video, and that was the first time I did that, and it was really awesome because when they found out that the people from their corporate office, they're like, somebody blew him off. Oh, hell no. And they would come through. They actually came through the drive-through and said, dude, I'm so sorry that I said, don't worry, man. I did a YouTube video and I told them what was going on. They looked it up. Oh yeah, they looked it up. They're like, hell yeah. And they're like, when they found out that they had a video showing love for them. And so initially I did the very first showing love. So that was the first, but I started doing restaurant reviews and would show up at restaurants and review their customer service. And that was where In Your Face started getting into other stuff. It was so much fun, so much fun. And we still do that, but we now include it into something else because In Your Face series is going to be going away at the end of 2000 of the year 2020. It's the last year for In Your Face because again, it got drug into alternate media, and I didn't want nothing to do with it. And around this time, we were having problems getting videos uploaded, so yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about that. We'll talk a little bit more about that. So now we're into 2017. We're looking at getting into car shows again. And in that process, while we're going through all of this, Project Spirit's original transmission finally gives out. And we searched around, got a new transmission, $150 for the transmission that's in her right now, $150, and it was ready to go. We put it in, amazing. Everything bolted right up. The clutch was a little bit too small, but it worked. It worked. I mean, it was like it's like an 11-inch clutch, and it was a 10.5 that we put on there, but it worked fine. Everyone's like, it'll be fine. Don't worry about it, man. So it worked. It worked fine, and it was a little thin when we had to replace it again. A little thin, but it wasn't that bad. It held up well all those years. Um, so in the process of that happening, the but just before that transmission went out, my boss, my boss Jen, and I tease her about this. And the only reason why I tease her about it is because she didn't get hurt. She was on double O coming from Fredericktown to coming into work. She was going to be there she had to be there at like 5 o'clock for something. I forget what it was, but she kind of it was snowy and icy out one day, and she had this horrible accident, tore up her car real good, and kind of scared the hell out of her and everything. She gives a phone call. Is Prince Magnum at work? Yes. Could you have him come get me? I'm on double O. I had an accident. I'm okay. Just a little shook up. And I get on the phone. Are you okay, Jen? She said, yeah, I'm fine. I said, well, I'll be right there. And drove out. Had to stop off, put a little gas into Project Spirit. And at that time, I didn't have a first gear because the synchronizer was out, and the first gear synchronizer was out. Drove up there and picked up Jen, brought her back to work. And she straight up said, to this day, she'll tell you after that accident, she heard that old 6-cylinder puttering up over that hill off in the distance, and she's like, that was a sweet sound because I knew I was going to be going somewhere, that I was saved. So Project Spirit actually went, and snow on the ground and everything, and it was cold and windy and everything like that. Project Spirit went and saved my boss, used Project Spirit to go save my boss after a horrible accident. And, brought her in and everything. And then of all the things, the car was still somewhat drivable. And the tow truck company said we won't pull the car out of the ditch unless there's someone there. So I had to take her back out to get her car, and help the tow truck driver get the car out. She paid him and everything, and I followed her back to town. So Project Spirit, and there's an actual video on that, and everyone kept teasing Jen, saying that, yeah, Prince Magnum's gonna release a video. Watch me get this bitch out of this ditch. She's like, screw you guys, screw you. And she said, you didn't do that, did you, for that video? I said, no, I didn't do that. It was a couple days later. I said, I did not make a video like that. I said, that's not my thing. I said, but if I'd have thought about it, she's like, you know what, screw you too. And I said, I know. I said, I need to stop picking on you about that whole accident. I said, because you're liable to dent my forehead. And she's like, you know what, you can go to hell too. So I was picking on her too. And instead, it was, every husband's nightmare, that his wife is in a situation where she can't, something happened and there's no one around to help and you can't get to her. So that was really the premise of that video. And it was a good video. I really enjoyed it. And at about this time, I'm probably around 150 supporters. So it was legit, that was how it all went. It was a lot of fun, those early days. But then when Project Spirit's transmission went out, I was actually trying to get to work. And that was it. Transmission wouldn't work anymore. Spent a couple of weeks, and I actually had to get taxis to go into work. Then a little bit later, her pickup coil went out, and had a hell of a time getting her pickup coil straightened out. But we got it straightened out, and once we got that dang thing straightened out, and it took us a little while, but in that process, Project Vera went away. Because initially Project Spirit was going to come off the road and we were going to mainly use Project Vera. And at this time, Project Spirit was making, believe it or not, she would make 3 round trips a day going to and from Farmington. She was, and I was at that time, to give you an idea, to go to my job from where I live, it's 12 miles. So legit, I was making 3 round trips about the same distance to my job with Project Spirit a day. And I would go 2 weeks without having to fill up her tank. And I kept her at 55 miles an hour every day. So she was cruising. And so by keeping her at 55, 60, she did good. She did real good. And it was stuff like that, Joe. So legit, it was definitely an interesting time. That's when we figured out that if the conditions were right, she could get all the way up to 64 miles of the gallon on the highway. And we drove that car everywhere. Drove Project Spirit. We still do. And so by 2017. Project Spirit's in the shop. We're trying to figure out she spent probably about 4 or 5 months in the shop trying to figure out what was wrong. Pickup coil. And so that's what took her off the road for a while. And we just could not figure it out. We replaced all sorts of crazy stuff on that dang car. All sorts of crazy stuff. Trying to figure out what it was. Pickup coil. That's all it was. Thank you for that 8th like, by the way. So 2017, Project Spirit was off the road, and that's when we brought in Project Lena. So if y'all ever wondered, 2017, we added Project Lena. 2018, we're back in car shows. Hey, what's going on? TFZ Gaming, welcome to the live stream. So 2017, Project Lena's online. We're starting to make payments on a car, and I'm like, I was the one that test drove Project Lena. And it was actually a buddy of mine from high school that was the salesman over at Car Mart right across the street from work. And around this time we started driving, and they're getting ready to shut down the store. I'm now full-time maintenance, and it was a different time. It was a really exciting time. And I started driving back and forth to Fredericktown. And this is how we added Fredericktown in. Um, and we started doing the paw prints on Project Lena. And I used to go around when Project Lena was fairly new to the channel. I would actually make the joke that Project Lena is the most powerful car on the Prince Magnum channel. Get it? Because of the paw prints on the fenders. That was where the joke came. And she became a hit with all the kids because of the paw prints. So if you ever wondered about that, old story there. Then Project Spirit comes back online 2018. We're back in the car show scene. And we're doing the car shows and everything. And it was a lot of, and that's we showed, just before that, we did a video with some of my coworkers out of Fredericktown. And it was called The Hot Rodders of Fredericktown McDonald's. Damn good video. And one of the guys who had this Jeep that was designed for off-roading, I wished we'd have done more with his Jeep. I really and I need to get with him sometime and actually do more with his Jeep, because that's a legit cool Jeep. And his girlfriend's like, "Oh my God, I love that video." She's like, "Thank you for showing off my boyfriend's Jeep and everything." She's like, "It was so cool. You guys got to do more together." And all right, Chairman, thank you for showing up, man. Appreciate you being here. You know, I always like it when you're here, Chairman. You're a good guy. Good guy. So that was, and we did that. Then we did the Azalea Festival. And at this time now, we're now above 200 by this time. And so I would say I was picking about 100 supporters a year. And it was getting exciting. It was getting really exciting. So we're now, and now we're in 2018, and I'm going to different car. Well, I appreciate it, man. You're a good guy. Don't you ever change on me either. All right. So that was really, 2018 was kind of where, things started changing. And in 2018, we went to a couple different car shows, actually. We went to the Azalea Festival in 2018, got third place. Went to the Bon Terre car show at the high school. And first time we ever done a car show in Bon Terre in my town, did it. And we went to Country Days that year, did the car show there. That was so cool. Showed Project Spirit there. Princess Faye didn't feel like showing Project Lena. She just didn't want to do it. And by this time, the police officers, we had done a live stream where I stood up for a police officer. Officer Ryan Miller had stood up for him. So we were now legit getting into basically exposing politicians over some stuff on my kids and everything, and just really went out of our way. We were standing up for the good for the good guys. And now to this day, many police officers in the area will go out of their way to watch out for the Prince Magnum channel for all the right reasons. So we legit now have police officers that are on the side of the Prince Magnum channel, and that was around 2018. That really solidified that. And at this time, the other YouTube channel that I was working with, we're now distancing ourselves even further. So things were really changing at that time. In Your Face had really been established. Surviving Romance had been really established. And I will say, you guys are all familiar with, really around 2018, this is where a lot of stuff really started coming into play. I'm working in a new store, in 2018. I'm full-time maintenance. And someone actually says, when I said, I do both custom cars and romance. And they said, how does that fit together? Project Geneva. Ooh, yeah. Yeah, I seen what you're working on. That's straight up cool, man. I seen the pictures on Discord. Beautiful car, man. Beautiful. I can't wait to see what you and Queen Bee come up with. Couples that work on cars together stay together, my friend. Straight up honest. Because Princess Faye and I've had some crazy shit happen to us. Straight up, you know. Um, so in the process of all of this, um, at this time, because of my Native American, being Native American and and that sort of stuff. Well, we'll talk about that in another live stream. So now, we're pretty well ingrained into the community, but we're still having a hard time really getting noticed. And other YouTube channels. Oh, not yours? Oh, I like the name though. I like it. Don't you change it. I can't wait to see what YouTube come up with on that car. TFZ, get out of her way. I see art waiting to happen. I see it happening. Get out of her way and let her do some thinking, okay? Peelable paint is not that expensive. All right. So now that I've said all of that, 2018, like I said, we did that car show. Um, we did another car show, I think, that year. Uh, yeah, we had done a couple different car. I'd even done a car show where this husband and wife, and Think Different might remember this. There was a husband and wife that were killed down in Florida on vacation, and their daughters were basically orphaned overnight, and they were actually in hospitals. That's what's up. So we done that car show, um, where there was basically all the proceeds went to help the daughters and help with medical expenses, help with the daughters. I was over in Leadington. No, Leadwood. And so we did that one. Oh my gosh, we were all over the place at that time. Um, People were just glad that we were there. And I actually found some of the old video footage. The last, I think, if I remember correctly, the last car show that we did for 2018 was a car show that all the proceeds went to this group called Shay's Angels, and it was for suicide prevention. And that was our last legit car show for 2018, and Project Spirit was there. And it was in a drive-in movie theater down near the Potosi, Missouri area. And Think Different knows the one I'm talking about. He'll know the car. And basically, if you were in the car show, you paid your ticket and you got to watch Smokey and the Bandit, the original Smokey and the Bandit, up on the big screen at this car show. It was so cool. After watching Smokey and the Bandit in a car show, sitting up on the hood of Project Spirit, I will say that trying to watch Smokey and the Bandit at home it's just not the same. It's just not the same. I got to watch Smokey and the Bandit up on the big screen in a car show. Well, at a car, after a car show in a drive-in movie theater, and it's never been the same. And there's video footage of that. And the car show that we did just before that, I will real quick did a 4th of July car show that year, 2018. And at that time, I had met our dear friend. That was around the time I met our dear friend, Third Gen 83, and became the best of friends with him. And he'll tell you other stories, but I won't tell that part of the story. But we didn't exactly start off as the best of friends, but we ended up becoming the best of friends. And I will tell you straight up honest, um, Think Different. He's actually, Third Gen 83. Think Different. Third Gen 83 has bought a lot of stuff for Project Spirit, and he's been a lot of my inside info for the Mavericks. I've learned so much from him. So much from him. And I met him around the time that we did the car show for 4th of July in 2018 down in Jackson, Missouri. And that was just that was probably my favorite car show. And that was the time I met him. And again, things were changing. 2019, Project Spirit did not get to do any car shows, and Project Lena didn't do any car shows. We showed up at a couple of them, but it just wasn't the same. We didn't compete. 2019, I met my partner, Jammin' John of Sketch Squad TV. You know, Sketch Scars. Met him, and he was the one that 2000. That was back in 2018. We really solidified ourselves in the community, and we were doing a lot of live streams. And in 2019, Project Spirit, we had just got through doing the front disc brake conversion on Project Spirit. We had just found a home for a cat that we were fostering, Spike, and it was really a time of change. 2018, 2019 was the big change for the Prince Magnum channel. We had added Off the Chain to the channel by this time. A look into our past was now starting to become a thing. You know, there was so much change at this time. It's just so hard to keep up with it all. And when I met my partner, at that time, the Prince Magnum channel was stuck at 350 supporters. That's how small time we were. And I was legit kind of getting some support, not a whole lot, from another channel called BST Ford Channel, Built Something TV Ford Channel. And he's got a Maverick project. And I think right now he's actually trying to get caught up to me, because I'm like, one of these days, man, you know, I hope that Project Spirit and your Maverick and can do a crossover. And he straight up legit said, your car is rocking and rolling. He said, mine needs a prayer. That was so awesome. And he's doing some really different stuff. But when I did my front disc brake conversion and did the video on it and everything, he turned around and said, I honestly think that you did your front disc brake conversion better than I did, because we spent about $850 on mine, and his was just kind of bargain bin stuff. But I think by now he's probably upgraded a little bit. But yeah, that was a different time. Then in 2019, that's when, you know, like I said, I hooked up with Jam and John. He started having me live stream video games, and it got me, and then started introducing me to the video game community. And that's when I started beginning to meet a lot of you. The first person that I really truly met that really made an impact on the channel was a guy named Choices Games. And then he introduced me to a few other people, and then I ended up meeting, let's see, she goes by Coffee Queen now. And then I met, Let's Talk About It with Jamie. And then, um, this is 2019, and the numbers started changing, and I started getting into grow streams and things like that. Carolina Hillbilly, my God, there was a lot of you out there, and people started noticing what we were doing. And then I cut this video. I got the idea to do that one-off exhibition that we still got to do. So we were not going to do it till after a few things are done to Project Spirit. I mean, she could do it now, but I just don't think it would be wise, because we're starting to have problems with the Z-bar linkage again. But in the process of all of this, we're looking at putting Project Spirit on the road again, and she's going to make this big comeback. And last year, and she did. Obviously, she's just like huge. And pretty much by this time, now people are starting to, people in the video game community are watching the Prince Magnum channel for the car stuff. and for the romance stuff. And we legit were pushing the channel. And I remember when we hit 400, then we hit 500, 600, 700, we kind of slowed down a little bit. I got to enjoy 700. Then when we hit 800, 900, that went 800 and 900 went fast. I mean, like super fast. It was like boom, boom, boom. And the next thing I know, we hit 900 and we slowed down a little bit. Hitting that one, for those of you who are struggling trying to hit that 1,000, it is hard. I'm going to tell you, it took us a while. And by this time, Project Spirit's in the forefront. Really put, that's the real star. She's always been the real star of the channel. You know, the car that people turn to, that simpler time. And at this time, I will let me kind of backtrack for a split second. Back in 2018, I had a customer, when I told him for the first time that, uh, that we do custom cars and romance. And they're like, hot rodding and romance, how does that go together? And I'm like, well, it's always went together. It's always went together. The two have always been a subject together. And that's when I realized for the first time. And so all the way back in 2018, I said for the first time, hello everyone, and welcome to the Prince Magnum Channel, where hot rodding and romance do coexist. It was a customer at work that actually said it. How do the two go together? And I talked about, having a bench seat in a car so your sweetheart can sit next to you, and taking them out on a date and opening the car door for them and all that old stuff, and taking your sweetheart cruising with you because you want to be seen in the coolest car with the hottest gal in town. And the hottest gal in any town I'm in is always going to be my wife, Princess Faye. And I started talking about that with her, and it dawned on me for the first time. I never really actually said it. So that's where it began, all the way back in 2018. And then at that time, the year before, I started, at the end of my videos saying, get out there and work on a project. I don't care what it is. Just do something with yourself. Back then, I used to say, get out there and work on a project. I don't care what it is. Just do something with yourself. Remember, idle hands and a creative mind make horrible bedfellows, is what I used to say. I used to say it that way. But then I changed it to they go together like oil and water. I thought that was a little bit more family friendly. So I changed that over the years, which Princess Faye actually said that she prefers it the other way around, ironically enough. And then I started adding in at that time, if you have a sweetheart, sweep them off their feet and do something special for them today. But I always kept saying, if nobody's told you that they love you, so that's always been a thing. So that's when, in 2018, that was the big change. And when my partner, Mr. When Sketch Scars, heard that, he's like, man, that is some powerful shit that you say there, man. That's straight up. He's like, I love it. So he was the one who really started that big push and started getting me out there and getting me noticed. But then in the process of that, I hooked up with Choices Games, and that's when you all began to notice me for the first time. He's like, the content is there. We just got to get you noticed. And when we did, that's when last year was the game changer. And then we started doing the videos with Project Spirit that you all got to see really for the first time. And then Sober Talk, and last year celebrating another year of sobriety and everything. And now here, we are, celebrating 13 years of sobriety, and Sober Man and Mrs. Sober Man were there. And Sober Man was like, you got to be real careful, Prince Magnum. I'm like, when you're on YouTube, and, so that's when Sober Talk actually began to get noticed, was last year. So that was when it began to really take into its own. And I started learning a little bit more about live streaming than I ever did. And at this time, I distanced myself from that one YouTuber just before I hooked up with Jammin' John, and I stopped working with him altogether because he beat a cat on camera. and that sort of stuff. So I distanced myself from him. This guy was the Bad News Browns, and then it all started really coming out more and more that uh, that the police department wasn't the problem. He was. Um, he's not right, and actually needs to go back to living in a nursing home again because he's not. He's really not capable of living on his own. He is not capable, but state of Missouri hasn't stepped in yet. They'll get him eventually. They'll pick him up and put him, basically take away his rights of living on his own, and his YouTube channel will go away together, altogether. But again will not tell you the name of his channel. Um, but if he leaves one more nasty comment about myself or the police chief here in Bonne Terre, um, look for it in the Discord. We're gonna do a different type of raid. We're gonna let him know. Don't be saying nothing. Straight up, you need to shut up. You know, and it's got to stop. It's got to stop. He's the problem, not everybody else. Um, so um, so that's how it all went down. Last year was the big year that we grew, and at the first of this year we broke 1,000. And this year has been quite the experience. I mean, we were coming up on 1.1K, but then YouTube started doing their purges, and now we're down to 1.05. So shout me out regularly, bring your friends, that sort of thing. Tell everyone who Prince Magnum is. And I know Think Different because he lives in my neck of the woods. That guy that drives a Maverick? You guys got to get over. He's on YouTube. He's on YouTube. So if you want to see what's going on, or that sort of thing, and we have done our best to get out there in the populace. Um, so far, the Prince Magnum Channel has done several several charity events. I was also a finalist in a karaoke contest. Gosh, there are so you seen her rolling by. Gosh, we have done so much. We've gotten restaurants recognized, here on the channel. Um, I have been. You drove my car steer, huh? Think Different. I'll tell you what. Friday when I get out of work, I gotta stop by and pay insurance on both of the cars. But if you think about it, um, around I'll say around probably 2, 3 o'clock, I gotta stop by AutoZone. I'll stop by in Farmington and pick it up. I gotta pick up an oil filter for Project Lena. I've got the oil up there for her, but I need to pick up an oil filter for her, and I need to pick up a couple of them. If you think about it, stop over and say hi. It'll be about 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon when I get over that direction. Um, there you go, Harold. That's what's up. Real quick while I'm thinking about it, Harold, have you had any more problems from that one guy? Have you had any more problems from that one guy still, giving you hell? If you have, just give me a yes in the in the comments, because it's going to stop right now. Okay, because enough's enough. You're one of us. You know. Okay, okay. Because if he gives you any more problems, I'm gonna foot to the hind end, because you've been nothing but supportive to the channel. You've been nothing but a dear friend to the channel. He does. I don't owe him nothing. Okay. I owe a lot to you because you've shouted me out to a lot of friends, and I'm not going, and you've helped grow my channel too. So no, that is not going to fly. Enough's enough. I like your work. We got your back. We got your back, brother. Enough's enough. So yeah, I mean, this year has been exciting. Now, I will say with the pandemic, I do kind of feel like a vulture because a lot of people haven't been able to go a whole lot of places. And when we started going live, it was a lot of focus on DIY, protecting yourself. But we've ended up having more fun than we probably know what to do with. We've had a lot of fun this year, and that's straight up. I mean, straight up honest. We've had a lot of fun this year alone. And I will tell you all straight up honest, the Prince Magnum channel has started off as a grassroots movement. We would not have made our breakout if we just continued to stay in Washington, Missouri, but St. Francis County has really welcomed the Prince Magnum channel with open arms. The channel was always there before, but we really didn't have. I mean, it was always there, but the content wasn't there yet. And today, the Prince Magnum channel owes its success to the St. Francis County area and to the Madison County area and to the Iron County area. We owe our success to those areas. Um, First and foremost, we owe a lot to those areas because anytime we show up to not only for charity events or things like that, you guys welcome us with open arms, and you let us, show off what we can do here on the channel. This is, even if I move away from this area, which there is talk about Princess Faye and I moving back to her home state of Oregon, I will tell you all straight up honest that home for the Prince Magnum channel will always be St. Francis County. It will always be here because of the fact that, so many people have really, I will say right now, we are over 1,000 strong right now in the Maverick Nation, but a quarter of those people come from right here at home. A quarter of you guys. And last year, well, this year, we now lay claim to the following things. Yeah, I seen it. I seen it. And I gave him a serious dislike on that one. And I just about said some nasty stuff myself on that. Um, Let me say right now um, that, a quarter of the Maverick Nation legit comes the uh, from the St. Francis County area. I own I am officially considered the most, unofficially, I'm the most romantic husband in St. Francis County, Missouri, and that is because of the work that we've done on the Prince Magnum channel. Project Spirit is the most recognizable classic car in St. Francis County. It is legit the most recognized classic car in St. Francis County. Project Spirit is known as the people's hot rod of historical St. Francis County, and she's still daily driven. Friday. Well, I'll be there tomorrow. I'll be at work, but it's just basically I'm going to be at work long enough but right after work, I got to stop by Farmington AutoZone. I'll be leaving out at about 11 o'clock. Actually, I take that back. Tomorrow I got to do the insurance for the cars. And then Friday, right after work, I'll probably get up there. And because I know everybody at AutoZone, it'll take me like forever and a day to get out of there. So I'll probably be there around the noon hour. I'll be there at AutoZone actually in Farmington. So if you're, you know, in St. Francis County, and you want to see Project Spirit up close and personal, I will be at AutoZone around noon. So you can come over and see Project Spirit and get a walk around her, see the the car that everyone knows in St. Francis County. You can come up, get pictures. If I know you, if you're a diehard supporter of the Prince Magnum channel, yeah, Friday I will be stopping off to pick up a brand new oil filter realtor for Project Lena, because we'll see about sometime this week that that we're going to be getting out there, and I want to start getting out there more and letting people get to see Project Spirit. I'm hoping sometime this summer. I got to get in contact with them, but one of the tracks, either the actual circle track, want to talk to them about possibly doing a charity event where all the proceeds will go to the children's home, or maybe the Bon Terre drag strip, and showing up and doing a public appearance where I will actually basically get on mic and maybe live stream that. That has been a hope of mine, to do that and basically raise money for for the children's home over in Farmington, to help raise money for them, because they're always hurting for money, and that has been something that I've been wanting to do, is raise money for the children's home over there. And it is so hard to get people to do a charity event, and I have said I will show up at your event. You don't pay me a dime, and I will sign autographs. I will do whatever it takes, because believe it or not, there are still people that'll come up and want selfies with me. And it's like, I will do this shit for you guys. All you got to do is put on the event, and you just give the money to the children's home. That's all you got to do. That's it. And a lot of these places will talk about it, but that's as far as it gets. So legit, that is something that we're struggling with. We are talking about I got to get in touch with the people from Jackson, Missouri, their car show down there. But I did see that they're putting on the 4th of July car show, and I'm going to see about attending again, because I love that car show. Oh my gosh. That was probably the coolest car show I have ever done. Even though Project Spirit did not trophy that day, she legit. I actually picked up probably right around 10 supporters from down there. So that was really awesome. But I would like to take Project Lena and show her off in that show. I would love to take her down there too. Project Lena, I think, would definitely get a lot of heads turned. We got to get on the poster boards. We really got to get on those poster boards and fix those up and everything. But we've been to a lot of car shows over the years. Yep, Project Spirit will be there. This is not official, obviously, but Project Spirit will definitely be at AutoZone around noon Friday. So if you want to get a chance to see her up close and personal, and I will let anybody take as many pictures as they want, and obviously, if you are a diehard supporter, tell me who you are, and if I recognize the name right away, you're more than welcome to even sit behind her and everything else. Sit behind the wheel and see what it's like to be in my shoes, to go out every day and have that kind of car, at your disposal to drive back and forth to work. I will tell you, Project Spirit has been the greatest thing in my life that I could have ever asked for. Princess Faye bought Project Spirit for me. She put up the money herself, and Project Spirit has been the best friend that a wife could have bought me. When people, as far back as what I like to call year one of the Prince Magnum Channel, Project Spirit, when people in this area tuned into to the Prince Magnum Channel, and people abroad tuned into the Prince Magnum Channel, up until last year, the only reason that a lot of people tuned in was either for the romance, and that was mostly the ladies. Which the irony of that is the romance side of the channel has always been geared as a guide for the men, to give husbands an idea, husbands, boyfriends, fiancés, whatever, ideas for romance. And the hot rod side has always been trying to bring both sides in, husbands and wives working together on cars. And mostly it was all, Yeah, to just give men ideas on how to keep the romance alive and well. And that's the irony of it all is the chance, so last year we really pushed the channel, and now we're doing fairly well. We're working on that watch time now. We're close. Every time you turn around, we're usually not terribly far off. It's one of those things, so if y'all get the chance, go back through those old videos. They're pretty cringeworthy, but you can really see how far we've come. And some of those old videos are really cool. Um, but real quick, again, if you ever hear the old 8-bit Nintendo music being played on the channel, real quick, for those that don't know, a lot of that music was from video games I used to play with an uncle that isn't with us anymore and that I was really close to. So if you've ever wondered about that, I know some people kind of like, man, you ought to get something else. No, that's why it's there, is because of that uncle. And I would never take that away because in a lot of ways, that uncle was there for me through my teen years, through a lot of tough stuff. And if it hadn't been for him, it'd be a different story today. Right, right. And so that's what it's all been all about. A lot of stuff that you see on the channel, there's been some way, shape, or form that it meant something. Yep, the old 8-bit NES. Um, so that's what it's been all about. And today, the biggest message that the Prince Magnum channel pushes, it's not just about cars, it's not just about romance, it's not just about history and things and old video games and mysteries and all the things that we do. It's not just about that. When you look at the big picture, it's all about how to enjoy life. Yeah, you'll get to meet me up close and personal, shake my hand, give me a hug, high five, whatever it is, you know, and you'll get to. I'm not the real star. I'm just the host of my channel. Project Spirit will always be the real star. You know, real quick for those that do not know, during 2000, during 2019, there was a moment that I almost sold Project Spirit to buy a 1977 Buick LeSabre. I was gonna, and that car's my birth year, and this car only had 50,000 miles on it, and I was legit looking at the buying this car because I wanted a really cool luxury car to do, and GMs are easier to get parts for than the Fords, but the backlash was humongous. I actually had people saying, "I will unsubscribe right now if you fricking do that," and so I did not do it. So legit, and during the last part of 2018, 2019, I almost sold Project Spirit to buy a 1979 Buick LeSabre. And then I got told, no, you won't. So if you were, so there was a time that Project Spirit was almost left the channel just because, I wanted something else. But then, uh, 2019 was the real renaissance of Project Spirit, and I'm really glad I didn't do it. I'm really glad I didn't do it. So there's something else. There's a little tidbit that y'all didn't know, and I'm glad I kept her. I'm glad I kept her. But that Buick LeSabre was real pretty. Ooh, it was real pretty. Kind of an ugly brown, but it was that brown that kind of grows on you like foot rot, you know. So if you ever wondered about that, I almost legit sold Project Spirit. I was going to sell her for about $5,000. Someone was interested, and at the last minute, I said, I can't do it. I can't do it. She's the real star of my YouTube channel, and they said, hey, I understand it. I understand it. I forget what engine it was now. I know it was a V8. I do know it was a V8, but I didn't do it. I didn't do it. I forget. It really now it just wasn't that important. I know it was a three something or other. I don't think it was an actual straight up 350 or anything like that. But it was in really good shape. It might have been. It might have been. I don't remember. It's been a while, but it was one of the smaller V8s they had around that time. And it was a Buick engine. but I was that close, that close. I don't remember. To be honest with you, I don't remember. Um, so that's been some of the changes in the Prince Magnum channel. We added, we started off with a 96 Ford Mustang, and that kind of helped us flex our muscles. And then when Project Spirit came on, Project Spirit taught Princess Faye how to drive stick. And for the record, she's not had any accidents since then. Project Spirit taught Princess Faye how to really drive. So Project Spirit did that. Project Spirit has done more for this community than any other classic car in our area, and has actually put our community on the map around the world. So that is legit what Project Spirit has done. Project Spirit is the people's hot rod of St. Francis County. She has legit earned that right with an old beat up four door from 1975 with an old inline six, 3-speed manual transmission. She legit has actually showed what this little neck of the woods, our little corner of the world, actually has to offer. And on top of that, Ford can actually thank Project Spirit because Project Spirit has probably sold more Fords from Sam Sism than any other than any other car lot in the area. Legit, Project Spirit has probably done more for their sales than any other car or any other salesman there, for that matter. Project Spirit has really done more for the Ford community in the area than any other car. I mean, she saved people. We're picking up a couple oil filters for Project Lena. She needs an oil change. And I'm probably gonna take a look and see what I can pick up for getting ready to do the body work on Project Spirit. See if there's any deals going on or anything like that. Just stuff like that. I mean, I'll be shopping around for a minute. So I'll be there for when I go into AutoZone or any other car, auto parts place. I'm there for a little while. I'll be straight. It's like I'm a kid in a candy store. I'm still a kid in a candy store. I have so much fun working on cars. I might get pissed off at them, but that's just what you expect. I get pissed off at cars all the time, and stuff like that. I have so much fun doing this stuff. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I wouldn't trade it for the world. Um, Project Spirit again, is the car that everyone knows, on the Prince Magnum channel. And it's just because of Project Spirit that people, I know pretty well. I know them all over there. May not remember their names right away, but I know them all. Like Will, oh God, that man knows probably no more about cars than the actual manufacturers, even the ones that are new today, straight up. My God. Um, so I'm definitely going to go over and see our folks at the Farmington AutoZone. Good people there. Uh, yeah, I mean, straight up, we're going to show up and, I'm going to show up with Project Spirit, probably be there for a good minute, and might try to talk Princess Faye to bring it over, get out of bed and come on over and hang out, so you can get a look at Project Lena up close and personal. Um, I'll tell y'all right now, straight up, the community does love those cars because they know now. Even the people that are not on YouTube still appreciate those cars, what they're bringing to the community. But I do want to start making more public appearances for the channel. No question about it. So that's kind of where we stand. I'm looking at doing more and more stuff. So that's kind of what's going on. Tomorrow is Sober Talk. So we're going to do Sober Talk. I have no idea what the hell we're going to talk about. Might talk about, I don't know. I think I'll just do a prayer at the beginning of the live stream and let my higher power take over there. Friday evening's live stream. It's going to take us a minute, but I'm going to make ice cream cake. I already started kind of working on it. Princess Faye has taken me off the project though, because I'm crushing up some Oreos to kind of make like the base for the cake. And I love telling stories. I love telling stories. I just hate talking about the drinking days. It's to me, it's not. The farther and farther I get away from those old drinking stories, the less and less I enjoy talking about them. To be honest with you, it's just one of those things I really don't. It wasn't the time that I like to think about. I like to think about my time in recovery, and yeah, the drinking. I really don't enjoy the drinking stories. They're just not that exciting. They're really not. I drank, I did stupid stuff, and here I am. That's just how it is. Uh, Saturday, I don't know if we're going to do a car show, but I know Saturday, if all goes well, we will be doing Sexy Saturday, and our theme for Saturday. Right, right. Sexy Saturday. We have a theme if it is on. If not, we'll do something exciting, I promise. But the theme for Saturday, the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Tim Curry. That is going to be our theme. Y'all excited? What's going on, Analysis Mayor? So that is Sexy Saturday. We are looking at doing the Rocky Horror Picture Show if Princess Faye gets out of work in time. Sunday, I'm going to be a guest on another YouTube/Twitch channel, Supreme Anime. I will be, no, that's not mine. Actually, it was the woman that played Magenta. That's her lips. For if you ever wondered that's actually her lips. And of course, the Rocky Horror Picture Show actually had Meatloaf, the guy Meatloaf in there. So how do we find? I will post the links on Facebook in the community tab that I'm going to be a guest on that channel, and I got Sunday off. We will be going live Sunday, and I'm going to try to actually do an extra long stream Saturday night. We're gonna spend some time with you all. I'm gonna spend some time with you all. Okay. Um, Trying to figure out an easy way because I'm really who would be a good person to I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what. Um, catch up with me over there at AutoZone, and you'll get my real name. Okay, you'll get my real name. Harold, good to see you, buddy. Thank you for showing up, man. Appreciate you. But catch up with me at AutoZone Friday. I'll make sure you're hooked up with me, okay? I'll even give you my phone number. All right, so you can call me anytime you want. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. Um, but yeah, Project Spirit, yeah, that's the real star of the show. She always has been. I know Ian always likes to tease and say, "Oh no, Project Spirits." Well, no, it's Project Lena. Project Lena wouldn't have never been noticed if it hadn't been for Project Spirit, really. I mean, that's the real truth. Just the way it is. And now Project Lena has her own following. That's kind of a funny story in itself. Uh, Someone said, "Is Project Spirit here today?" It came into work. Says, "Project Spirit here today?" No, but Project Lena is. Can I go look at her? She's right over there. And they went out and did looked around her and it's like, man, she's a pretty car. But yeah, back in 2018, I met Third Gen 83, dear friend. Met a lot of you around that time. My God, so many memories from the channel, and it all started just because someone tagged me in 5 things you would take to the zombie apocalypse, and he was tagging everybody. And that's where the Prince Magnum channel did its very first video. It was a different time. A lot of fun back then. My God, when I think back, and we got over 600 videos now, and some of them have been live streams, and we've interacted with a lot of you out there. We've had so much fun this year. Oh my gosh, stories to tell. I was there when Prince Magnum said this. And there's been a lot of you out there that I've shook your hand and met so many of you. So much fun. So much fun. So that does bring us to a good stopping point. Again, this week is going to be exciting. The end of this week. I am going to push myself a little bit because of the fact that I got the weekend off. Yay! I go back to work Monday, but I won't be streaming Monday. Tuesday we'll be back, but I have Tuesday off, so we're going to spend some time. We're going to get back out there and start working on projects again. Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. I didn't do a whole lot, but yeah, it was well worth it. So that does bring us to a good stopping point. And, again, we're going to stay positive out there. So whatever's going on in you guys' life, remember to stay positive. No, I'm getting ready to go eat. I ate earlier, but I need to go eat now. Okay. You could probably tell that too. I'm probably getting a little paler. Yeah, I can feel it. So I'm going to get ready to go take care of me. So that is kind of where we're at. All right. So again, I will give you a drinking story tomorrow. I will give you a drinking story tomorrow. Remind me, okay? Remind me. I'll give you one. All right, but that does bring us to a good stopping point. Again, thank you all for being here. Thank you all for for hanging out with us. And you guys are awesome. And again, the Prince Magnum channel has been all over the place, and that's just because you guys have allowed us to. I will go take care of me, Queen. All righty. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for being here for me. And that brings us to the point where I get to say, get out there and work on a project. I don't care what it is. Just do something with yourselves. Remember, idle hands and a creative mind go together like oil and water. If you have a sweetheart, sweep them off their feet. Do something special for them today. And as always, for all of you out there, if no one out there has told any of you that they love you today, Prince Magnum does. God bless you and have a happy 24. Thank you.